Hello everyone. So for some reason, I know what the reason is, but so this season, season 9, Seasons of Toradim, I had a very compelling desire to not trade, right? Because the trade system is, well, I'm not going to say archaic. There is no trade system, right? You can just, shout in Kuyavashad, Kerrigar, and then you trade with people. So there's no trading system. So thanks to Diablo Trade, there is a site called Diablo.trade, right? You can do a little bit of trading there, right? You can just take your items. So for example, I can take, okay, why did I keep that? Okay, so for example, I can take this item, right? It's a double gray graphics dexterity, and I can screenshot it. I can put it there, and I will say I will take 1 billion for this, and someone whispers me, and I can sell it to 1 billion. But the thing is, even with that one, the process is pretty draining and annoying. So this season, I just want to have none of it, right? But I found it a little bit more of a challenge than what I expected to. First of all, guys, you just cannot get mythics, right? I mean, the boss drops you something, that's good, right? And you have some sources of resplendent spark, but they are one-time things. You can get max reputation with the horadic thingy, the season reputation, right? That gives you one resplendent spark. You can kill Lilith on Torment 1 on higher, right? The Uber Lilith pinnacle boss. And I think that's once per account. If that's not even once per character, I think that's what it was last. The reputation thing is once per character, not account. And you finish the season journey. That's again once per account, and that's it, right? You have no other sources of resplendent spark, and then you have to actually get them from bosses and get you have to be lucky and get the good ones, or you have to get bad ones and salvage them and get one resplendent spark out of it. And then the problem is, normally if you want targeted crafting, so if you want to get Shako, if you want to get Shadow Fawcett, what you have to do is you have to provide a specific series of runes, as you can see here. No, not here, here. Okay. Yeah. So there are a total of 9. So for example, for Shroud of False Death, and I'm sure you know this because Buck is very valuable, right? What you need is generally one legendary rune, one rare rune, and one magic rune, and a set of 6 of each, right? And and the problem is, I mean, as you can see, I'm Paragon 226, and I didn't go very fast about it, so there is a serious amount of playtime in there. I don't know how much exactly. And let me show you what I got, right? That is all that I have gotten in my playtime. I think I might have like 1 or 2 equipped legendary runes equipped on my characters, but that's about it. 4, 7, 10, 12, 14, 15, 18, 20, and 25, right? Let's say I have 5 equipped on my characters. I don't, but let's say for the sake of 30, right? I have found a total of 30 legendary runes. And the thing is, guys, what do you imagine the chances are I get 6 of a specific one? And the thing is, I am pretty close on Yom, which is probably the worst legendary rune there is. And the thing is, I have found none. I didn't find 6 of any specific legendary rune. And the thing is, we are talking about any rune, right? And for the targeted crafting, you need 6 of a certain one, right? For example, if I wanted to get, a Shadow False Death, I am halfway there, right? And so, for example, if you have watched my Hydra Sorcerer build guide, that build requires 1 Nago as part of your rune word. I have found 0 Nago, right? I have found 0 Ohm, I have found 0 Jah, I think. So targeted crafting is out of the question if unless you are willing to invest hundreds and hundreds of hours if you play self-found. So I'm not saying solo self-found because doing the bosses in group is helpful, but that's what I did, right? Zero trading. And if some of you have a similar resolution, I will just help you and say no, don't do it, right? I will swallow my pride and trade next season. And the thing is, I can make 10 billions in a few hours, I would say. I was going to say 10 minutes for comedic effect, but I think that would be too much of an exaggeration. But guys, I could sell these runes for a lot of gold, right? Buck, yeah, and Shadow of Falset is the most popular mythic, alongside with Ring of Starless Skies, I think, this season. And you can sell these bucks for 1 billion to the right people. There are these, and I have also kept. So I wasn't very sure if I would trade or not, so I kept some relatively decent lines. For example, guys, this is a max level duelist aspect. Duelist aspect is end game, right? The best build in the game right now is poison, poison thorn spiritborn, right? And that they use that aspect there, right? And also almost all of the other spiritborn builds use this, so this is valuable, right? I could sell it for some billions, right? But as I said, I didn't want to do it. So the price was the lack of targeted mythics, and also runes were a little bit of a problem. As I said, this build does require a Nago, and I don't have a Nago. But at some point I was playing with a guy, a very nice guy, and he said, let me give one to you. Right? He said, he was just going to give me, but I didn't want to break it, right? Because I could get one myself immediately, right? I could say buck for Nago, and I will have it in a moment's notice. So yeah, I mean, if you don't want to trade, right, just stick to the bare minimum, right? So for example, you have some some Vex, some Ohm, and just shout in the trade channel, I have Ohm for Nagu, I have Ohm for Igni, I have Ohm for Ja, whatever it is, right? And you will get a hit at some point, or just keep an eye on it, right? There will be some people which I suspect to be gold biased, because some people are paying some very obscene amounts of gold for very trivial matters, right? And some crazy person will say like 2 billion for buck, right? Just sell them your buck, and then you can buy the stuff for 500 million, which what I mean by that is trading a little bit, I think, is useful. Gems are a huge problem. As you can see, I have maxed out all my gems, and let me show you the cost. Take a look at the amount of emerald and diamond topaz I have. So the thing is, I did get done with the build on an acceptable level to me, right? It's not perfect if you have seen my guide on it, but it's an unacceptable level. I think I can push pit 100 or so, and the highest people can push pit 115 or so. I think that's an acceptable level, because I didn't pay an effort that is anything that can resemble anything like theirs, right? And I'm like 15 tiers behind. That's, I think, fine. And the thing is, my last several hours have been dedicated to grind out the gems, because I just didn't have enough gem fragments to craft the highest rank of topaz. And as you can see from my emerald and topaz, sadly these idiots require each other when you are crafting the gems. So, and I have a spiritborn that uses emeralds, and I have a sorcerer that uses topaz, right? And you can craft the gems at the jeweler with this recipe, right? You can craft emeralds, which requires topaz, and you can craft topazes, which requires emeralds, which is very stupid. I don't think they should need each other, right? I mean, so emerald requires 3 somethings, and topaz should require some 3 other somethings that the emerald does not. So if the emerald includes topaz, the topaz should not include the emerald, in my opinion. So, and that's the end result for me. As you can see, I have obscene amounts of the other stuff: diamond, sapphire, skull, etc., ruby, but emerald and topaz have it. So that's another level of pain, and I'm not also even getting in the items, right? So everything you can see here is self-found, and I could have gotten much better stuff, right? I mean, if I sold the stuff I had, I could have gotten. So for example, take a look at this. I mean, this is an ancestral item, but as you can see, I had to roll away from my great graphics, so I basically have no great graphics here. What I have is, I have the ancestral item range rolls, but that's it. I have 0 ancestral thingies. So thing is, guys, double grade traffic stuff gets really expensive, right? But of course, I haven't traded the season, but generally you can get one grade traffic thingy for about, I don't know, like several hundred million. So it is very manageable, right? I mean, maybe if I go for core skills and Hydra Sorcery is very popular, that might be a little bit more expensive, but one grade traffic stuff is definitely manageable, right? So I also didn't buy these, right? This one is also, I guess this one is also okay-ish. So this is my masterpiece, right? Two great graphics, and also had luck with the tempers and the masterworking. This is probably my best item, but yeah. So when you are limited like that without trading, you getting the right stuff is a problem. So for example, my Shaco, right? I obviously want cooldown reduction on my Shaco because generally the builds that utilize Shaco capitalize on the cooldown reduction because it's the single greatest and biggest source of cooldown reduction in the game. If you have a great graphics and you triple masterwork it, you get a whopping and insane 54% cooldown reduction from it, right? And that's what I want. But so the masterworking is acceptable, but the main problem is I do not have a great graphics there, which means I'm missing out on 10% cooldown reduction. And if I had so this is the only Shaka I found, right? And I had to make do. So how did I arrive at the right mythics? So I was doing rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds, right? And I was getting some garbage like Andariel's Visage, Air of Perdition, Nesekam the Herald, that stupid polearm, right? I was salvaging them all, and I was going to the blacksmith and using this recipe.
What do you need?
For a random mythic unique. After like 2 or 3 tries, I was lucky enough to hit a Ring of Starless Skies and I was playing Spiritborn at the time, and that did help quite a bit, of course. Then I was losing hope. I was thinking about this build. Then I was like, I need 2 more mythics there and targeted stuff, and I obviously can't get the runes. So what would I do? And then I was doing some Andariel runs or something, and then bang, I get a Shaco. I'm like, wow, that's very nice. 2 rounds later, I get a Shroud, right? They just dropped, not even crafting or anything. But what I had in mind was I was going to run all the bosses until all of my materials went away. I would get some mythic uniques, right? And I was expecting garbage stuff, right? And I was going to salvage them for the spark, and I was going to do random crafting, and I was going to hope for one of these 2, and I got 2 of these 2, and I would say I was lucky at the end. So if you go for self-found, getting all 3 mythic uniques is, I would say, pretty lucky, right? And there are 9 of those, so when you randomly craft it, there is a 1 in 9 chance that you hit what you want. So when there are 2 that's acceptable, that's better, right? There is a 2 in 9 chance, 22% approximately. But when there is only 1, there is only 1 in 9 chance that you hit it. And getting mythic uniques from bosses is like, I don't know, 3-4% maybe these days. They have been changing that stuff. Maybe that's a little bit optimistic. Maybe it's a little bit lower. But yeah, it's not very frequent that you get one. And always keep in mind, when you craft the random stuff, right? That one is a mythic as well, and you can salvage it for, 1 Resplendent Spark. So you pay 2 and 50 million, but in the worst case, you can get back 1, right? And you do it over and over. So guys, long story short, don't do the no trade resolution. Do trade, but if you are, repulsed by it, just keep it at the minimum, right? If someone is advertising for something that would be good for you, for example, as you can see, the guy is trying to buy ohms and 6, and if you have 6, I do have 6, for example. Maybe I could sell it to the guy for 50 million or 100 million each, or maybe I get some other rune that I myself need. And sometimes people will be overpaying, that kind of stuff. Gear trading would be a little bit more costly because costly time wise and on your soul. I mean, you have to keep the good stuff that you find, you have to advertise them, you have to sell them, get some gold, and then buy the stuff. That is dodgeable, right? I mean, it will obviously affect your character's power negatively, but at least the runes, the targeted mythic rune, the mythic crafting, I think we should tap these. So the idea would be to get the runes that you need, to get the mythics that you need, so you could get the great graphics on the right one. So for example, you craft a shako, you don't get a cooldown reduction shako, salvage again, right? Again. But I mean, these would be of course costly gold wise because it would cost something in the neighborhood of about 4 billion gold. Why? Because the legendaries are about 500 million each, especially the more popular mythic ones. And then there would be the rares and the magics, and you would have a lot of rares and magics by yourself, as you can see. But the thing is, if you are going to mass craft, you will run out of those as well. So you will have to buy those, and people always would like to use a good opportunity. You cannot get them for like 10 million, right? If it's, for example, I think Shadow Faucet is buck money cry, and money and cry will also be somewhat expensive. So roughly we can say 4 billion. So every try will cost you 1 resplendent spark and 4 billion gold. Why do I say 1 resplendent spark? Because if you get a bad one that you don't like, you can always salvage it and always get that spark back. And the sparks, as I have told you, there are one-time sources of it, but after that, the only repeatable source of expanded sparks is actually getting mythic uniques and salvaging them. So you have to spam bosses. So yeah, I think if you don't like trading, the best course of action is to sell the runes that you don't need. I mean, as I said, there is a lot of gold lying in here, right? Sell the runes that you don't need. Maybe if you get some really good item, you can also sell that one. Triple great graphics, something, right? That kind of stuff. I should have, triple great graphics, but of course, the fire resistance and lucky are not very good. But if you hit that kind of stuff, maybe you can actually spend the time to sell that. Imagine getting, I don't know, like 4 great graphics of Ignairis with 100%, right? That would sell for a lot of gold, and maybe that would be worth the time because you sell that for 20 billion, for example, and then you have no need for gold for a long time. Yeah, I think that would be the best cause. So you can end up, or you can just go casual, right? But no trade makes the getting of mythics pretty hard. So that's about it. My idea of the no trade, and I'm interested to hear your comments about it. Have you tried it? How hard was it for you to get the mythics that you needed, the runes? Yeah, do tell, and we'll chat. See you in the next one. Bye bye.